Hey guys, Spud here, and today we finally have a one-on-one training session in my favorite jet of all time in DCS World, the F-4E Phantom II. And it was my absolute pleasure to help this student get up to speed in the old Lead Sled. And believe it or not, this was my student's very first flight in the F-4. He bought it and downloaded it only minutes before our flight. I had previously worked with Scuba Steve, which is of course an awesome name by the way, in the A-18C Hornet, and he was becoming very proficient with flying and fighting in the bug. But he wanted to try and stretch his legs and get into an older and more historical aircraft. During my lessons with Scuba Steve in the F-18C, I highly emphasized learning and mastering basic stick and rudder flying skills. And I think you'll agree that this paid off in huge dividends in the F-4E, and he took to flying it like a pro right off the bat. In fact, I was really floored by how well he took to the Phantom and how well he flew it today, and I was ecstatic to finally be able to share my love of the F-4 with one of my patrons. So if you're interested in a one-on-one training session with me, I do these lessons with all patrons who donate $15 or more to the channel on Patreon. Once you're signed up, send me a PM on Discord and we'll work you into the schedule. Our sessions together are all about giving you the tools, study materials, and knowledge to be able to practice everything we work on your own or with your friends, so that once you've mastered those skills, we are ready to move on to the next set of skills and we can hop in and work on those together, and as well as clean up any rough edges from the previous set. And then we'll do that so on and so forth until we've brought you from zero to hero in your favorite DCS aircraft. However, in the interest of making sure that I don't confuse anyone out there today, I have a small correction to what I told Scuba Steve about the fuel system. When the green external tank lights in the cautions and advisory stack are illuminated, that means the external tanks are not feeding. I had told him the opposite, which is certainly my mistake. So please fly safe out there and enjoy this beautiful game, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Alright, you ready to rock and roll, sir?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. Let's try the formation takeoff procedures again. Oh, and if you like having the LCOS gun sight turned on for takeoff, go ahead and throw it over to cage mode. If you like just to have the plain, open gun sight, you can leave that in standby or off. Totally up to you.
I think I like it on. Give me a little reference point.
Yeah, go for it. In cage mode, it's just caged right to the water line of the aircraft.
Okay. And do we need to do our bombing table again?
Oh, yeah. Good. Thanks for the reminder there.
Absolutely.
Mode of delivery is going to be DT. Type of bomb, Mark 82.
I don't remember how to get to that. Is that...
B key, right?
Ah, that's right.
Yep. So it's separate from Jester. I feel like you should be able to get to it from the Jester menu, but, we'll put that in the good idea bin.
Right.
Run-in speed will be 550. And, mode of deliveries also needs to be DT. And 550 on the run-in speed. Release altitude, we'll set that to 8,000. Target altitude is going to be 0. Dive angle will be 30.
Okay.
And that gives us a drag coefficient of 1.07, correct?
Copy all.
Roger. Go ahead and hit Tell Jester. And we're ready to rock and roll, sir.
Alright.
Oh, one quick thing. Let's tell Jester to navigate to waypoint 1, so that way we get our HSI set up.
Got it. Turn point is updated.
And technique, not procedure. I'm going to turn my flight director switch on as well to give me a little extra SA on where my waypoint is.
Okay.
Navigation. Go to waypoint 1. Beautiful.
Turn him back down. Make sure I'm on the right one here.
And now, because we're getting a little extra practice in, let's see if we can do the formation takeoff procedures without the explanation.
All right. So
When you're ready.
Cleared the runway.
Yep. Cleared for takeoff.
Let's do it. They'll never see us coming.
And make sure that when you do taxi onto the runway, taxi forward just a little bit so that way your wingmen get into position a little easier.
Okay.
Alright. Right there is probably good. Alright, 2 set.
1 set.
All right, how charge that?
All right. We already got cleared, right?
Yep, we're clear for takeoff.
All right. Run them up.
2.
Brakes off. Rolling. Burners.
Engine's good. Airspeed's coming alive. 80 knots. 100 knots. Gears moving.
Airborne.
Flaps up.
Roger, get the gear up and the flaps up.
Gear up.
Flaps up.
And we'll go for 350 knots and let's climb up to 15,000 feet.
All right. That is going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, it's really not too bad once you get used to it, but it's definitely different from the Hornet, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And go ahead and check your airspeed.
Dude, I'm losing track of where I'm.
Heads up, traffic at 11 o'clock.
So airspeed's
Mud on
just
our
to
nose,
the
1
left
o'clock.
of the ADI.
And mud. SA6.
Okay.
1 o'clock. SA6.
I'm seeing Mach numbers. I don't know.
Yeah, so a little bit different on this airspeed indicator. The Mach number is going to be on the outside, and the indicated airspeed's in the little triangular window inside the needle. Do you see that? So see how on the, you can see the Mach number on the outside? So put your mouse on the little needle for me, and I'll kind of guide you.
Okay.
So then you see where it says 40 inside the needle there? That's your indicated airspeed. So right now you're going about 375 indicated. So yeah, does that make sense? So that little notch down below, that where the needle's pointed now, is going to be 350 for you. And then, of course, on the outside's your Mach indicator. Sound good?
And they correlate to each other automatically, I guess, huh?
Yep, exactly. You don't have to do anything there.
Nice.
All right. Okay, we'll unpause here, and I'll try and get in formation.
So we're looking at 350?
Yep, 350 indicated for now. And you're climbing up pretty steep. There we go. And especially in the climb here, just keep that instrument scan going, and let's see how close we can nail 15,000 feet today.
Copy.
Got a new bogey, left 15 degrees, 1 mile, 13,000.
Yeah, that power's something to get used to as well.
What is?
The power compared to...
So this jet is a hell of a lot more powerful than the Hornet, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So you're going to find yourself going too fast real easy. And that's why I'm artificially holding you to 350 indicated. Otherwise, we'd be cruising around here at 550 knots, no problem.
I I got it.
All right, where's
Next
waypoint
point
1?
is updated.
We are.
Jester probably just updated anyway. So where's waypoint 2?
We are at. Looking at steam gauges again.
Oh, yeah.
About 028.
Yep, you got it.
Okay.
And 2 is saddle.
We are 300 shy of 15,000.
Yep.
Got you on the 15,000.
Good job, man. And really good job on that in the turn as well. Awesome job.
Thank you.
Did it better than I could have, but that's why I teach, because I can't do.
I'm trying to be laser focused here.
I like it. But remember, in that instrument scan, you might be laser focused, but don't fixate on one thing to the detriment of others, right?
Right, yeah.
You're doing really, really well.
Getting back up to 15,000.
I like it.
The trim is a little different on here too.
Yeah, so it's not a fly-by-wire airplane, so it's not going to be trimming her out automatically for you.
Yeah.
So a cheat code for this, and Tomcat and F4 pilots did this all the time, is if you flip the autopilot on, even just momentarily, it'll trim you out for your current altitude, airspeed, AOA, all that good stuff.
Oh, okay.
Really, really good job. Just need to nudge just a few more degrees, about 5 more degrees to the left for waypoint 2. Really good job
That's
flying,
a new
man.
bogey, all right.
Thank you,
Left
thank you.
40, 42 miles,
That was a
17,500.
lesson you gave me to work on after the last one, but this is a whole different ball game here.
Yeah, well, I'm like sitting here with my jaw on the floor of the cockpit watching it fly here.
Thank you. That's big kudos for me.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Alright, so I just clicked the autopilot.
Yep. And also remember to click that other autopilot button to turn the altitude hold mode on for you. So that, like I said, that's a real awesome cheat code. Is if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what the trim is doing in the jet right now. I can't feel it. I can't get it back. Just throw that autopilot on and let it do it for you.
Okay.
Nice job. And of course, no auto throttle in this jet. So even with the autopilot on and altitude hold mode on, you're going to need to be just adjusting that throttle to hold 350 knots indicated.
Gotcha.
All right.
I don't remember which autopilot button I set to what. But,
43 miles, 700
Yeah.
that's
feet.
altitude. There we go.
So remember, so the 2 switches for the autopilot are down just aft of the AFCS stab augmentation control switches. So if you see AFCS engage and the switch is forward, then you know the autopilot is on. And if you see the alt switch forward to engage, you know that altitude hold mode is on.
Okay.
So that way it looks like they're both on for you at the moment from what I just saw on your screen. Sound good?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go.
No friend return, make bogey burn.
Okay. So now as we're cruising out here, we'll just say we're flying, our simulated strike mission. We're getting away from good guy airspace. We're getting towards bad guy airspace. So it's now time to fence in. And your fence checks are just going to be exactly the same as they are in your FA-18, right? So first up, and probably the most important, is going to be F4 fuel. Do we have enough fuel to be able to complete our mission? In the F4, because we don't have a full picture of how much fuel we have, we'll just give our fuel state in terms of our internal fuel and how many bags we have left. So I would say, 2's fenced, 11.83 bags for my check-in, for my fence-in call. Does that make sense?
It does. Are we not transferring from our center line yet?
We currently are. That's on by default in a hot start.
Okay.
You can double check that with that little triangle switch and make sure that's in the inboard position.
So when we say 3 bags, we don't have any way to know how much we've used out of that center line yet, correct?
Yep, exactly. So kind of getting an idea of how much fuel is in there is if you look at your caution and advisories stack, you've got center external fuel turned on in green. If that turns amber, that means that it's either getting low or it's empty. Does that make sense?
Okay, I don't see anything on over there.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, that's no good. So your switch is probably in the off position, which is odd because it was on by default for me. So just after your throttle, that little triangle switch will move that to the inboard position. Okay? Here we go.
It was on. I've got no light.
Let's see here.
There it goes. Okay.
Yep. So that kind of brings us to another thing about the fuel system in the F4. The jet is a little bit unpredictable as to when it's going to start feeding fuel and when it shuts off feeding fuel from the external tanks. So if you're at, say, a high G loading, like you're turning hard, or if you're just cruising and you're banked pretty high, or you got a high pitch, whether that's nose up or nose down, it'll stop feeding from your internal or your external tanks and feed from your internal tanks. And then when you level off and fly straight and level again, it'll start to feed from the externals again. And you'll see that your internal fuel gauge there is going to go down. And you'll see like, oh, I'm down to 10,000 pounds now. And then it's going to like shoot back up to 12,000. And things will be filled back up by your external tanks. Does that make sense?
I gotcha.
It's kind of funky and kind of weird, but basically go off that fuel gauge and then the color of the lights on the caution and advisory stack. And right now, my internal fuel is totally full, so that green light from my centerline external tank turned off because it's no longer feeding. Does that make sense?
Okay, so that light's only on while it's actually feeding.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and unpause here. Flying through a little cloud, and that's why we've got our pitot heat turned on. So if you fly through a cloud, it is modeled that if your pitot heat is not turned on, you may get icing on your pitot tube, and your airspeed as well as your altitude indications will go all wild and crazy.
Gotcha.
Cool. So let's continue on with our fence checks here.
I'm backing down just a little back to 350.
Perfect. We've got E for emitters. We've got our radar is turned on. We can see it scanning on the DSCG scope. That's real important in the F4 because all of our bombing modes we're going to use today are predicated on using the radar in air-to-ground mode. Then we've got N for navigation. We've got our navigation system all set up and ready to go. We're currently navigating towards waypoint 2. C for countermeasures. That's going to be something that Jester sets up, or a human Wizzo sets up for you in the rear seat. So hitting that countermeasures button should release a flare and a chaff for you. Next, we've got E for employment and external lights. So we're going to go master arm switch on.
That is right here.
Yep. And we should see an amber arm light underneath the blue gun light on the heads-up display.
Okay.
And then we're going to go back to that bank of switches back by our right hip. And the forwardmost switch, that's the master external light switch. Just bring that to the center off position, and that'll turn everything off for you.
We are. I was checking instruments. Is it the one in the back or the one up here by our?
That's going to be the one in the back.
Okay. And which one did you say?
The forwardmost one, bring it to the center position, and that'll turn all your externals off.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll map that to my pinky switch.
Yep. And now we are all fenced in, so you're going to make a radio call. You're going to say one's fenced and give your fuel state.
One's fenced. Date 11-7, 3 bags.
Roger, two's fenced, 11-7, 3 bags. And there you go. Flight's fenced in. You now know your wingman's fuel state. You know that he's ready and rock and roll for combat. And we are ready to go drop our bombs on a target.
Rudder.
So one last thing we're going to do here, and this is going to be kind of situationally dependent. We can take our weapon delivery knob and we can bring it over to DT for dive toss, but that's automatically going to shift our radar over into air-to-ground mode. So if you're potentially worried about MiGs or interceptors of any kind, we probably want to leave that switch in the off position rather than the DT position until we're ready to actually start dropping our bombs. For today, because we're not going to get intercepted, let's go ahead and throw that over to DT. And you can see 2 new amber arm lights show up on the stations we have selected. You see that?
Got it.
So those 2 amber arm lights are super important. If we have any of our weapon switches misconfigured, those amber arm lights will not show up. And that's really important for weapons like your walleyes or your hobos or your mavericks, because if those weapons aren't configured correctly, you won't get an amber arm light.
10 o'clock.
Copy.
Alright. So let's go ahead and we'll just hit waypoint 2 here, and we'll fly out to waypoint 3. And we will drop bombs on our target.
Is there a distance to waypoint indicated or anything like that on here?
Yep.
Okay, I see it.
So exactly. So the right-hand window is course for setting a course line on your HSI, and then the left-hand window is your nautical miles to the target. It says miles, but it's in nautical miles for the actual way it will, the actual unit it will display.
Okay. And there's no automatic navigation to the waypoint, right? Because we're a little off right here.
Yeah, so this jet does not have like a coupled autopilot mode, but it does have control wheel steering. So with keeping the autopilot on, if you're real gentle and give it a bit of right stick, it'll bank the aircraft right and maintain your altitude, so it'll just gently turn you over towards the waypoint. So that's one way you can do it, or you can kick the autopilot off and fly just manually to the waypoint and put the autopilot back on if you wish. Or you can just go ahead and hand fly it, whatever you feel like doing. And we'll unpause here.
Is it just me, or is the zoom slow, not very slow?
It depends on the button you have it mapped to on your HOTAS.
Okay. I'm using a tiny little finger wheel here.
That's probably why. It's super fast.
I have options.
Yeah. So you can kind of see here that the F4 with that control wheel steering mode does like to fly pretty gently, pretty easily, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, rolling right slightly.
So the F4 was designed at a time where stability was key for fighter jets because there's no fly-by-wire yet. So the jet is really, really finely balanced. So she flies really nicely. She flies more like a giant, Cessna 172 than a fighter jet, really.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's very smooth.
She's a heck of a lot easier to fly than the F-14, that's for sure. So when you get into that jet, your hair will really go on fire.
I have not tried that one yet. I'm going to be sticking with this one for a little while.
Awesome. DCS needs more F4 pilots, so I like it.
That was my plan.
Yeah.
Get in some missions.
So I keep up pausing and unpausing because this jet is harder to fly, so I figured it's easier if we just talk with it paused. So we just hit waypoint 2, and Jester automatically updated the waypoint. So if you look at your HSI, it should show waypoint 3 out at roughly about 270, right?
Correct.
Cool. So the way the INS works is it's a super, super early, mechanical computer. It's a non-digital system. So it only has enough memory to hold 2 waypoints. So Jester's using a technique called leapfrogging, where he's entering in the next waypoint, then he's swapping it and entering in the next waypoint in the old slot. So that's why he keeps updating it as we hit the different waypoints. You can open the gesture navigation window and tell him to hold at a specific waypoint. So if you want to make sure that you have nav, say, back to the target out here at waypoint 3, we can tell him to hold at waypoint 3. So that way when we hit that, he's not just going to leapfrog over to the next waypoint. Does that make sense?
Gotcha, yep.
Cool. I'll go ahead and unpause here, and we'll make that left-hand turn on over to the target, and then we'll start talking about dive toss.
Coming left.
Rudder.
Yeah, we got a ways to go, so I'm taking it easy.
Yeah, no worries.
I told my wife this is just a quick intro flight. It'll be like an hour and a half, but I was nice to her today, so we're good.
Okay, good. Yeah, the F4 is just a beast of a jet, you know. Once you get it, it's actually quite easy, but it just requires a bit of a shift in the way you would think about how you would do things in the aircraft.
I am really liking it the more I do it.
Dude, it is such a fun jet to fly. It's cool because you can see, like, the beginning inklings of all the things that you get in your FA-18, right? But in analog format.
Yeah. I did work on old H-60 Bravos, too, that had almost identical cockpit as this. A lot of steam gauges.
Yeah.
You know, same HSI and everything. And
yeah.
kind of used to it. Never flown it. I've never actually flown.
Gotcha. Okay, so to prepare for our weapon delivery, let's go ahead and kick the
I lost my altitude. Sorry, I lost my altitude hold. I'm just letting you know I'm coming back down.
Yeah, no problem. So what happened is the autopilot probably broke out. Do you know what autopilot breakout is?
You jink it too hard, it says I don't know what you want. You're in charge?
Yep, exactly. So let's bring it upstairs to about 18,000 feet. Look at 18 to 20 block, and that'll set us up for dropping our bombs.
Copy. Coming up to 18,000.
Awesome. And just check that airspeed.
Yep, coming up back to 350.
Okay. So, one technique that F4 pilots would employ, especially in air-to-air combat, is our J79 engines are quite smoky. So, a technique would be to just put the jet just barely into just a smidge of afterburner to burn off those fumes coming out of our jet and get rid of that big black smoke trail. And that will allow you to, you know, obviously maintain your airspeed and your altitude, but also get rid of that smoke trail.
Leveling off at 18 here.
Roger.
18.2.
No problem.
Pretty close enough. Put some altitude hold back on.
Roger. And let's just come out of burner for now, just so that way we can save some gas. That was just an explanation of a little technique there.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did down pretty low anyway, so.
No worries.
I need some trim.
Yep, I can see you kind of fighting with it a little bit there.
Yeah. Watching too many things at once.
Yep.
Alright. 350 on course, coming back to 18.
Love it. Our target's going to be Greater Tomb Island, which is that small little island right on our nose.
Got it.
All right, you ready for the real helmet fire now?
Oh, sure, hit me.
Okay, so dive toss is basically the predecessor to the CCIP and the auto modes that you're used to for weapon delivery in the F-18. And basically what it is kind of like, think of it as like halfway between the auto delivery mode in your F-18 and the CCIP delivery mode in the Hornet. But it's a bit more manual thrown on top of that. So the way it works is you're going to get into the dive, you're going to be diving down to the target, and you're going to tell Jester to have him lock the ground in the back seat. So he's literally going to lock the radar onto the ground near your target. And what that does is it gives the weapon release computer the necessary ranging information to determine when to drop the weapon. Follow me so far?
So does it like give you a cue on the ground and you have to steer to it?
No, you're going to put your pipper on the ground. You're going to tell Jester to lock the ground. Hopefully it's near your target. Then once you're in the dive and the ground is now locked, which you'll see indications on the LCOS gun sight to show that you are actually locked onto something, which will be the ground, hopefully near your target. You're then going to fly the jet very gently onto the target, and you're going to put the pipper right on where you want the bombs to impact. Then you're going to press and hold the weapon release button. You're then going to hear a very high-pitched tone in your headset. That tone lets you know that the aircraft is authorized for the weapon's release. Then you're going to start a very gentle and pull out away from the target, at which point in the pullout, the weapon computer is going to calculate the precise release time to toss the bombs onto the target. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Cool. So what we'll do here is I'll demonstrate it first because it is kind of esoteric compared to what you're used to in the F-18. So what we'll do is we'll fly out a little closer to the target here, and we'll just keep you in autopilot hold, where we'll just have you in altitude hold and autopilot turned on. Obviously, we'll bank you to the left, and then you'll just fly a nice circle while you watch me do it on Discord. That makes sense?
Copy.
All right. So we'll just unpause here, and we'll just keep on flying a little bit further. And I'm going to, as I'm explaining it, be pausing and unpausing pretty regularly to show you exactly what I'm doing.
I've got autopilot on right now.
Okay. And let's have you go ahead and roll to the left, so that way you're just flying a nice little autopilot circle here. About right there should be good. Just double, triple check that your altitude hold mode is turned on.
Oh, I was looking at them backwards, that's why. Okay.
Yep.
Alright. Altitude and attitude are engaged.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen on Discord here. And let me know when you can see my cockpit. I'm just going to pause it here so you can see me. Just click on, double click up top there in your stream, and then click on my stream.
Right here.
There we go. And I can see you seeing me. All right, you got my cockpit here?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so we're just going to set up for a roll-in maneuver in the exact same way that we would for the FA-18. So I'm just going to fly a nice little offset away from the target. I like to fly my offset slightly to the right for a left-hand roll-in. And our target here is going to be the little airfield on Greater Tomb Island. And we're going to go LCOS gun sight to air-to-ground mode. We're just going to double check here. We're in DT. We got our bombs selected. Everything is set, ready to go. Nose and tail for our fusing. Master arms on. And we're just going to keep an eye on our target here. So right now, everything is exactly the same as to the way that you would drop bombs in your FA-18. It only changes once we're diving onto the target.
Okay.
So I'm just going to see if I can drop my bombs on the 2 helicopters or on the little ramp area here on the airfield. So I'm just adjusting my offset here as I get closer to it. We're really looking for a nice deep dive on the target, at least 30 degrees of dive angle. That's going to allow our radar to get a better lock onto our target.
Is that the same, get it right in the canopy bow there?
Yeah, just get it right in the crook of the canopy bow and you should be good to go. So there we go, we've got our target there, everything's looking good. I'm going to go ahead and start the roll-in. I'm coming down to the target, and I'm going to put my gun sight right on the target. And at this point, we can see my pipper is right on the target there. We can see these few helicopters down there. And I'm going to use that Jester context button to tell Jester to lock the ground. So that button's simulating me as the pilot in the front seat being like, oh, hey, dude, lock the ground now. I'm in the dive. You know, I'm ready for the lock.
That's
and
the other gesture button that we mapped?
Yep, exactly. And I'll unpause it here and I'll lock the ground. I'll pause it again for more explanation. All right. So we know that Jester has locked the ground when we can see the ranging bar on our LCOS here. Very similar to the ranging bar in the gun sight of the FA-18. Basically exactly the same. So we know we have the ground locked. We can also see the radar scope changes to the locked symbology. And at this point, I'm good to go. I'm getting radar ranging information to the ground to my weapon release computer. All I need to do now is just place my pipper exactly where I want it to my bombs to land. So let's say this second from the left helicopter here. Let's see how well I can do. And then I'm going to press and hold the weapon release button and pull out of the dive nice and gently, nice and smoothly. Okay?
All right.
All right, here we go.
Okay, captured.
Okay. So now I'm pressing and holding the weapon release button, and we can see these roll cues starting to move. This is our cue to follow these roll cues for the most accurate weapon drop possible. Because if we were to accidentally roll the jet as we're pulling out, well, then we're going to toss the bomb off to the side, right? We want to try and keep as straight as possible, and these roll cues will keep us as straight as possible in the dive.
So we're keeping the inner ring matched with the outer markers or vice versa?
No, so the inner ring doesn't matter. We're looking to keep this mark matched with this mark matched with this mark, and this mark matched with this mark.
As far as which one's going to move is what I'm asking, I guess.
So we need to roll the jet to the right to match the gun sight to our roll cues. Does that make sense?
I got you. Yeah, center circle is us. I got it.
Yep, center circle is us. Okay, so I'm going to unpause and see how well I do here. Okay, so you saw me start a very gentle pull out away from the target. As I'm pulling out, the weapon release computer released my bombs at the appropriate time when it thought my weapons are going to impact the target. So you can see my 2 little bombs came off the jet there.
Gotcha.
Depending on your airspeed, altitude, dive angle, all that kind of stuff, you may be a little bit surprised how long it takes for the computer to calculate the release point. You may be getting even very close to being straight and level again when the bombs come off. And that is all dependent on how steep your dive is, your altitude, how far away you are from the target, all that good stuff. It's basically doing the same calculation that CCIP mode does in your F-18, just in a very analog way. Cool?
I got it. Yep.
So, and then of course, I'm just, at this point, it's basically back to the same thing as your F-18. I'm just going to pull out away from the target and hopefully I don't get shot. So I was pulling out.
Turn point is updated.
Let's roll over and let's see where my bombs impact. Pretty long. So it's not a super highly precise thing like in the F-18. It's basically a can you get a string of bombs across a runway kind of situation. So as we practice this, I don't care if you can hit the broadside of a barn, but hopefully your bombs hit the ground. Okay?
Somewhere near where I'm looking.
Yep, exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my jet up to a holding pattern, and then I will watch you do it and give you guidance. Sound good?
Copy.
All right.
I'm going to switch back to me now.
Yep, go for it.
Do I need to tell Jester to go ahead and hold the waypoint?
Yeah, if you'd like.
I've been known to get off track pretty good.
Yeah, no worries. Tell him to hold waypoint 3.
Okay, so holding. I think I did something wrong here.
Let's see here. You want to go to holding, current turn point activate, and you should be good.
Okay. Alright. Let's get over there.
And don't worry, I won't let you hit my jet, so don't even worry about me.
Alright. I'm looking for the island here.
All right, it's literally at about your 10 o'clock, right off your left shoulder. Look up a little bit. Should be right out there.
Whoa.
And just remember that it's also at your waypoint 3. So it's going to be a heading of 280 from you right now.
Okay, I got it. Airspeed a little. And I am set up to drop, correct?
Looks like you are good to go.
Okay.
So the more altitude you can give yourself to work with on this to start off with, probably the better. So if you're, let's make sure you're definitely within that 18 to 20 block. All right, I come to the left a little bit, start working the airfield down there into kind of the canopy bow.
I'm still in cage. Do I need to switch that to...
Yep, exactly. Let's bring that over to air-to-ground mode. Good catch. And of course, we fly the offset, not just for a sexy roll-in maneuver, but so that way we can, of course, see our target and it's not behind our nose, as well as we need to be able to see the people who are trying to kill us and shoot at us with SAMs and AAA. And always good to have positive Gs on the aircraft rather than negative Gs, especially when we're dropping bombs off of it.
Gotcha.
And keep on working to the left a little bit. We want to put that area of our target right in on our canopy sill there. And this probably looks pretty good. Try rolling out, see what you get. There you go. That's looking better.
19,000.
Yep, looking good. Okay. And be ready for the roll-in. Go ahead and start it. and roll back to wings level. Get that pipper onto the target. And have Jester lock the ground.
I hit the wrong button.
That's okay. There you go. Press and hold the weapon release button and pull out. Did the weapons drop?
Track IR kind of locked me up here.
Roger.
I need to get some altitude.
Do you need me to pause it here for your track IR?
No, I got my head in a bad spot.
Okay.
Heard something hit.
Yep. 2 weapons definitely came off your aircraft. And start bringing that nose on up. Start climbing back up.
I gotta resituate my track IR here. I got a big.
There you go.
I mean, for permanent purposes, I'm a little too close to it, so when I get those, really looking over my shoulder, it loses it.
Yeah. Do you have the recenter button mapped?
I do.
Okay.
Oh, I smushed my my little clip down. All right. There we go.
Okay, perfect. So on that one, now that you kind of know what's going to happen in terms of the keybinds and the tone you're going to hear and all that, on this next one, really try to avoid over controlling in the roll, just because it's a lot of things to do all at the same time in the dive. We want to try and get that pipper onto the target as early as humanly possible in the dive. So go for more gentle, and if you need to make a correction, rather than kind of like panicking and being like, whoa, I got to make that correction, and you kind of over-controlled the jet, just be nice and gentle, nice and smooth, and just bring that pipper over nice and slow. Here, slow and smooth is going to be much faster than jerky and all over the place. Make sense?
Gotcha.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and reform up with you here and fly with you through it.
Yeah, I hit the wrong Jester button when we were getting in there.
Yeah, no problem. It is all to be expected.
I'm gonna climb and start kind of a wide turn back around.
Yep.
We have a friendly, 11 o'clock.
So I made a mistake earlier. The forward external light switch is actually just for the fuselage lights. For the wingtip lights, we actually need to have both of the aft switches off as well. So that's my mistake.
Okay, no worries.
All right. Okay, let's go try it again.
I'm still climbing a little bit. I'm only at 16 now.
No worries. And did Jester hold the current waypoint on the island?
It appears that way. Yep.
Perfect.
Pointing at it. Yeah, I wasn't listening for the high-pitch lock tone either.
Yeah, so that high-pitched lock tone is only going to start happening once you press and hold the weapon release button.
Okay.
So the lock is going to be silent. It's the authorization to release the weapon that's going to cause the tone.
Okay. I'm leveled off at about 20. I'm coming left.
Beautiful. I'm saddled on your right.
So ideally, I wouldn't want to be going right over the main part of the island, but I'm gonna.
For today, I really don't care. We're just looking to make sure your bombs hit the ground. We'll work on the tactical stuff later.
Speed off. Going in.
Roger. Nice job. Weapons are away. And hit the burners and let's climb out of here. Don't let them shoot us. And... not bad.
So I hit long on those, or am I blowing up buildings?
So
that went pretty long.
They went pretty long.
Okay.
Reason for that is pretty shallow on the dive, right? We want a nice steep dive. That's why we want to really bring that target area that you want to hit right into that crook between the canopy sill and the canopy bow.
Gotcha.
But other than that, that was really good. Looked really nice on the actual flying part of it.
Thank you.
I did get a quick glance at your field of view of your cockpit, and just try to work on getting that pipper onto the target as early as possible, and try to be nice and stable on it. So that way you can go right from having your back seater lock the ground directly to pressing the pickle button for the weapon release authorization.
Okay, yeah, I tried to, I guess Hornet style, tried to refine the ground lock there. I don't know if that's really a thing.
Yeah, so you want to have, ideally, for the most accurate drop, you want to have the radar lock as close to your target as possible. So, and the way to achieve that, the best way possible, is to get your pipper onto the target early, then have Jester lock it up, then, once it's locked, go directly to pressing and holding that pickle button.
Okay.
Are the roll cues on the gun sight making sense to you?
Yeah, I just, helmet fire. I was...
yeah.
I was looking at other things. Jester's asking about my fuel.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Oh, I switched the wing tanks.
Oh, you did? Okay, great.
Well, I'm doing it now. Alright. So, if I get the ground locked in a bad spot, do I need to undesignate it to relock it, or just hit the lock again?
Just tell Jester to lock it again, and he'll undesignate and relock.
Okay.
If you've done that, if you're over a defended target and you're not practicing, I recommend just aborting the bombing run and pulling out, because you're going to get yourself so low that you're going to get sieved by, you know, higher, smaller caliber, higher rate of fire AAA if you get that low.
I got you. Alright, so I'm going to ditch a little bit of speed.
Heads up, nails, 6 o'clock. And nails, 6 o'clock.
20,000 feet. Going a little steeper this time.
Go for it. That's what we want.
Alright, rolling in.
Roger. Looking good. Pretty darn steep. I like it. All right, go ahead and pull out. Pull out, pull out, pull out. Careful on the G's, though. Don't over-G the jet. All right, what happened on that one?
I pickled instead of gestured.
Gotcha. It looked like you turned almost upside down in the roll-in on that one.
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay, let's knock it off. We're out of bombs now, so let's head on out to waypoint 7.
You with me? There you are. All right.
Yep.
Turning right.
Roger.
What altitude would you like?
Let's climb it up to 15. Why not?
All right. Well, I get it. I mean, I didn't do it, but I get it.
Yeah, well, that's what we're looking for today. In these trainings, I really don't care if you can hit the broadside of a barn. You know, it's all about giving you the knowledge to be able to practice and fine-tune, you know?
Yeah, definitely going with the primacy with how I know how to drop bombs, and that doesn't work here.
Yeah, exactly.
Leveling off at 15.
Raj.
On course.
Oh, mud, 10 o'clock. SA6.
Alright. So now if we need to get our air-to-air radar back, now that we no longer need air-to-ground mode, just simply take that weapon release mode select knob and bring it back to off, and the radar will reset back to air-to-air mode. Keep an eye on that airspeed for me. Let's go for 350 on the airspeed again.
Coming down.
Alrighty. Are you slowing down via speed brakes?
No, I'll just pull the throttle back some.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
There we go. Alright. So we want air-to-air or cage?
So that's going to be your gun sight. What
Yeah.
I mean is for your radar itself is the weapons or the delivery mode select knob, which is on that weapon panel on the bottom left of your instrument panel. Bring that back to off instead of DT, and that'll bring your radar back to air-to-air mode.
Okay, alright, we're off.
Perfect. Alright. Okay, let's learn how to selectively jettison stores, because that's obviously going to be important in the F4, because we got to know how to get rid of that centerline bag so we can fire our sparrows. Keep an eye on that airspeed for me. Okay, so in order to selectively jettison, just like in the F-18, we need to have our master arm switch in the arm position. And let's select the centerline station and deselect the LI and RI stations.
So I'm
Yeah.
I'm pretty low on internal fuel, I think. Is that
What do you have?
6,000?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm at 5,000. So let's feed from the wing tanks now.
I had it switched to wing tanks already.
Okay. We may have blown through them.
Okay, I've got 3 lights on for external.
Yep, I've got those same 3 lights.
Okay.
Okay. We are on the way back, though, so I think we should be fine. And, okay, I am starting to feed from my wing tanks now. So, starting kind of weird. You know, we talked about this earlier where, you know, the jet, it's not super consistent as to when it likes to feed and when it doesn't like to feed from those external tanks. When you switched over to the external tanks back when we were dropping our bombs, we had a lot of huge pitches up and down. We had lots of roll going on, all that good stuff. The jet doesn't like that. It likes to be nice and wings level. So when we are just flying straight and level here, that's when it's going to start to feed from those external tanks. So I just saw my gauge start to tick back up again, even though I'm all the way down at 5,000 on the internal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. And now it's ticking back down again, so we'll see what happens here. Okay. The good thing is we're on our way back to the airfield, so we should be okay on fuel with our internal mount regardless. So what we're going to do first is we'll select the stations we want to jettison. So for now, it's going to be our centerline station. And we're going to bring the station select knob for jettison to the very bottom position. So that's going to be that black knob with the red jet button on it.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the wrong one.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay.
We want to always make sure that we have the knob in the furthest down position. Otherwise, we may inadvertently dump a sparrow or a station that we don't want to get rid of. So
Gotcha.
I tend to like over rotate it, then rotate it back just to be sure. And then once you're there, all you got to do is press and hold that red jet button and you're good to go.
I'm gonna do it now.
Go for it. And there goes that centerline bag. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and do it too. And we are now a heck of a lot less draggy.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So heading on back to the airfield here. The F-4 can be pretty hard to land, and we'll talk about that a little bit here. And first we'll fence out. So we'll go master arm to safe, and we will get our external lights back on.
I am safe and lights on.
Beautiful. Okay, heading out to waypoint 7. I'm going to get my nav information updated because I've been navigating off of you.
Wilco. Turn point is updated.
Alright. So we will start just a lazy descent here. Let's try and hold 350 indicated, and
How's
we'll
our fuel
descend
state?
down to, let's go for about 5,000 feet.
Alright. I'm landing. I've got a bunch of beeping. Is that the raw or is that...
Yes, so that's going to be your raw equipment. It does a lot of different beeps and bonks for different types of radars and things. So it's a very much an older school type of raw system. It is going to give you a lot of more raw information from the radar, such as the actual like sound of the radar signals hitting the oscilloscope and things of that nature. So what you can do if you're tired of it is just turn it off by hitting the power button on the bottom right of the control box there. Or you can turn the volume down.
I just killed it.
Sounds good. I did the same.
That gauge to the right of the radar warning display, what is that?
So that is a gauge for seeing where the pave spike targeting pod is looking in reference to the water line of the aircraft.
Okay. Got a ways till I get there.
Yeah, that thing is analog voodoo magic at its best, that's for sure.
Got it.
Really good job in this nice, long, gentle descent. You're making it real easy on me as the wingman, which I appreciate.
Thank you. And you're welcome. We are... Is that 15 miles out?
Yes, sir. You got it.
And that's our runway, waypoint 7?
Waypoint 7 is going to be a lineup point for our runway. Al-Minhad is kind of tucked back behind a international civilian airport, so it's going to be important for us to try and get to the correct runway here. So let's keep this descent coming down to 2,000 feet, and let's steepen it up just a little bit. In the F-18, have you been practicing more Navy traffic patterns or Air Force traffic patterns?
Really depends on what I'm doing. I would say mostly Navy.
Okay, so you've been flying in the upwind to the overhead offset to the right of the runway or over the center of the runway?
Typically like a carrier offset to the right.
Okay. Only difference for us today is we're going to be flying right over the center of the runway for an Air Force jet.
Okay.
And let's start making a gentle turn to the left out towards waypoint 8 to get lined up on the runway.
Yeah. Is Jester still going to try and hold since we told him to hold a while ago, or once we picked a new waypoint, is he going to keep on going?
You know, I'm not sure.
Okay. We'll find out.
Yeah. It's hard to keep caught up with absolutely everything.
Yeah. I've dipped a little below 350. Do we want that, or we want to keep it up there?
We'll keep it at 350. And it looks like, for me, he decided not to update. So let's go ahead and start coming off to the left. And let's go for waypoint 8.
Turn point is updated.
Oh, never mind, he just updated it.
There we go.
So the runway that you're probably looking at is that international airport I was talking about. Our runway is at roughly about 090 from us now.
Okay. I can't see ours yet, but yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, I know that one's not ours.
Yeah, perfect. A lot of my students on this map try to bring me to that airport.
That's how I know. In a lot of ways, this flies much nicer than a fly-by-wire.
Yeah, it flies a lot more naturally.
Yeah.
And the F-16 flies even weirder than the F-18 does. So I always recommend that people go for the F-18 before the F-16 because the F-16 flies so bizarrely.
I gotcha.
So let's come to the left. Let's go for a heading of like 060 for now for lineup on our runway. And basically,
quite a bit.
Yeah. Let's pause it real quick and talk about landing in the F4. So the jet is really kind of a draggy, old school, muscle car rather than the F-18, which is like finely crafted, beautiful, perfect landing kind of airplane. So we're going to need to do everything the same as the F-18 in a lot of ways. You're going to be trimming, to get to on-speed AOA, which is going to be a nice amber donut on the AOA indexer, but you're not going to have a visual representation of an E bracket up on your HUD or anything like that. So the AOA indexer is right underneath where it says pull up on to the left of your gun sight. Do you see that guy there?
Got it.
Perfect. Once you get to on-speed AOA, you're going to be pulling a lot of alpha, which means that your nose is going to be like way the heck up there. So you may need to raise your seat up a little bit or raise your view up a little bit to see over the nose and actually see the runway. The jet is also going to want to land quite a bit faster than the FA-18. So if you feel like, holy crap, I am just zipping across the runway here when you touch down, no problem. That's why we have the drag chute. So if you see that amber donut, you're at the right speed. So don't even worry about what your indicated airspeed is. Just go for that amber donut no matter what. Sound good?
Got it.
And do you know your keybind for your drag chute? Do you have that bound yet?
I don't have that bound.
Okay. Well, that's important. I'm glad we stopped to talk about it. So it's going to be, if you just search on your keybinds for drag, your drag chute will be out there.
I did see that, but I didn't get to it yet.
Yeah, no problem. That's why we're here.
I don't know why I'm not getting a search window.
Drop down from the top there, search, and then delete the text there. Just hit backspace, or yeah, try hit the drop down again there, and then hit search, and then, or just go out to a different one and then go back to search. Maybe that'll work.
Okay.
Just a weird buggy thing.
Okay.
Yep. And search, just drag. There you go. And drag chute deploy is kind of what you're looking for there.
All right. What do I want that on? I know what I'll do.
All right.
Got it.
Okay. So our airfield is, if you zoom in a little bit, it is off to our right at roughly about our 1 o'clock.
I see it.
Cool. And the runway's at 090, so we're going to have to come to the left a little bit and then come back to the right for the geometry for lining up on the runway. That's why I tried to have us start the turn a little earlier, because we hit the waypoint, then started the turn. That's why we're so far out away from the runway heading itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so lead us to the runway, sir. Air Force aircraft are going to go for a pattern altitude of 1,500 feet, AGL. The field elevation of the airport is 200 feet, so we're going to go for a pattern altitude of 1,700 feet for today.
All right.
Fuel check, how we looking?
We're still looking for 350?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
350 or be our pattern airspeed.
Coming to 1,700 now.
Love it. And start a right-hand turn back to 090. And we should be pretty close to lined up on the runway. Nice. Good job.
Thank you.
Keep an eye on that airspeed.
Getting disoriented here a little bit.
Yep. Nose, runway's right on your nose.
Yeah, I'm a little low.
Yep. Just bring it up a little bit. And remember, we're just going to be flying right down the middle of the runway.
Disengaging AFCS would probably help me out a little bit.
Yep. And when you're ready, go ahead and start the brake.
Before I brake, are we doing just like a carrier brake? Get the flap slats gear down in the turn?
Yep, exactly. That's going to help you out with getting this beast under control.
All right. I've never tried this, so I don't know how it's going to float or anything, but here I go.
She doesn't float like the Hornet. I'm just going to put myself in autopilot, and I'm going to help you out. Alright, airspeed's coming down. Keep an eye on that runway.
Looks like we've got traffic at
Keep that nose up a little bit. We're kind of coming downhill. And coming in through up to 270. Start to roll out. Start to roll out. But keep that nose up for me. Keep that nose up. That nose wants to drop because she's heavy and draggy. Okay. Alright, so start trimming that nose up. Trim, trim, trim. Looking for that amber donut. Nice. Make sure you keep some power in there as well. Let's keep slowing her down a little bit. Keep an eye on where that runway is. Nice. Start the turn into the runway. So we're a little bit fast. That's why we got the red chevron. So keep slowing her down a little bit. Keep that nose trim coming. Trim up, trim up, trim up. And a little bit less power. She's going to be shaken. And you're going to hear the AOA tone. And you want to go for a steady tone on the AOA rather than a beeping tone. There we go. There's our amber donut. Now we're just a little too slow. There we go. Keep an eye on that runway.
This is way different.
Oh yeah, very different. But you're doing remarkably well, so great job.
Thank you.
Just a little fast. That's why we got the chevron, and we're probably a little bit smidge high. There's the donut. Little slow.
We have a new
add a little power.
Left 30 degrees. 3 miles. 1,400.
Oh, getting a little behind the power curves. A little bit of power.
IFF returns
Not
on
bad.
this one. E paints.
Not bad at all. Remember to bring that seat up a little bit if you can. There we go. Looking very good. Alright. Right there. Try to hold that. Little bit of power. Little bit of power. Power, power. And, okay, we're over the pavement, so that's good. Starting to float a little bit. Alright, let's try and bring her down to the runway. Alright, get that drag chute out there.
Dude, I don't remember what I used. There we go. Got it.
Nice, nice.
Oh,
no! Did you hit the brakes?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so big thing in the F4, no brakes until you're at taxi speed. That's why we got the drag chute.
Okay. Well,
Nice.
That was a way different landing than I'm used to.
Way different?
The brake and approach and everything.
Yeah, way different. You did really, really well for the first time.
Thank
So really good job on that. Would it be helpful to you to watch me land the jet?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. I will share my screen again.
He's landing and then I'm done. I had to give the wife an update.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm
No,
keeping you too long.
No, you're good. I'm done.
All right. Let me set up for the overhead here. So like I said, you did remarkably well for that landing. That was awesome.
I don't feel like it, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, no, that was great. If you don't crash the F4 on your first landing, then, well, I guess you did crash, but well, you didn't crash before touching down, so that's good.
I didn't explode.
Yeah. So
I'm in your cockpit now.
Beautiful. Big thing with the F4 is, before you get on those brakes, make sure you're just above taxi speed. That drag chute is there for a reason for you.
Okay.
And then drag chute etiquette is once you turn off of a taxiway, kind of bring yourself a little sideways on the taxiway and release that drag chute off into the infield between the taxiway and the runway.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I have no feel for how this thing handles at slow speed until just now, so it's a different beast.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm caging my LCOS just to give me a little bit of an extra reference point here. And we'll bring her on down to pattern altitude at 350 knots. Alright, there's 1,700 feet. So big thing, just like in the FA-18, is the better we can nail things like the pattern altitude and the airspeed as far out as we can, that's going to make it easier for you. Just like in the F-18, things snowball, right? So if we have a bad pattern, that's going to snowball into a bad landing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So normally at an Air Force base, the lead in the flight would break over the end of the runway, but to give ourselves a little extra time for explaining and whatnot, we're just going to bring it down to the midsection of the runway. And we can see here I'm a little bit high, but I'd rather be high in the pattern than low in the pattern, especially in the F4. So we'll go power idle, and we'll start the turn. And in this jet, because it is so draggy, I'm not going to worry about popping the speed brake. I'm just going to let it kind of do its thing.
I think watching you now, too, I was just out of habit treating that gun sight like a velocity vector, and that does not work.
Yeah, no, that does not work. That is, think of it more like the waterline marker in your HUD than the velocity vector.
I got you, yeah.
So, getting lots of trim in there, we're getting the jet slowed down. So see how far up my nose is pointed?
Yep.
That's kind of what we needed from you a little bit there. So going for the audio tone for the AOA, I'm going to leave it at kind of the beeping tone, the doot, 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 doot kind of tone, as I'm turning base and into final. And then right before touchdown, that's where I'm going to try and get the hard tone and the perfect amber donut. So because if I'm a little bit fast on the base and base to final turn, that's going to just give me a little bit more controllability on the jet.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring my seat up.
Yeah, I wasn't listening for the tones either.
Okay,
I mean, I heard them, but I wasn't following them.
Anti-skid.
Yeah, it's kind of like, like the F4 is always like the precursor to what we have in the Teen Series jets, right? So instead of a velocity vector and a beautiful HUD, that tone is going to be a way for you to know what your AOA is without having to look at the indexers. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. There we go. We're just bringing her on around. And it's always better to be too fast than too slow, especially in this jet. And it's always better to be too high than too low, because it's very, very easy to get behind the power curve in this aircraft.
So I see.
And so here I'm just kind of working the throttles a bit. I'm a little bit too high, but I'd rather be high than low. And now I'm starting to get behind the power curve, so I'm bringing the power up early. Working the lineup on the runway here. A little too fast now, so bring the power out. All right, there's the lineup. You can see my airspeed's degrading pretty quick, so I'm just being careful to not get too slow too early. Let's hopefully I can get a donut here. We'll see what we get.
100.
There we go. Just keep working it. Start the flare. There we go. There's my tone.
Very nice.
And boom. Drag chute coming out. And not touching the brakes. Not touching the brakes. Just using the rudders for directional control.
Oh man, that landing was so smooth I could fall asleep like that.
Huh.
Beautiful. And now I'm at taxi speed. I can start to get on my brakes. And I'm going to turn off of the runway here. And so what I mean by the drag chute kind of etiquette here is... Oh, there's your jet. Is I'm going to kind of angle myself a little bit to point my tail off the taxiway and off of the runway. So to dunk on you here, I'm just going to blow my drag chute off into your face.
Thanks.
So I'm just going to do one of these here. So to kind of show what it looks like from the outside of the jet. See how I'm kind of angled away from the taxiway? And then I'm just going to release it. And it would be blown by my jet blast. And DCS just kind of disappears. And then I'm just going to taxi on off. Cool, man. Really, really amazing job today, by the way. You did fantastic. You did so much better than I thought you were going to. It was just awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.